Hello, my lovely, morbid, and awkward friends. How are you today? So, I hope you are having a lovely one wherever you are. Also, if you hear any extra noise in the background, I can't really help that because, I live in an apartment. So, sorry, trying to enhance the audio as much as I can, but anywho, so welcome back to the 25 Days of True Crime. I hope you've enjoyed some of the true crime cases that I have shared with you so far. Today is going to be an unsolved true crime case. This one in particular, it's another in New England. I do have a lot of cases that I'm planning for the remainder of the 25 Days of True Crime to be outside of New England and more away from the East Coast. So we're getting there. Trust me, we're getting there. This is a great one. So obviously, with true crime comes a lot of unsolved cases, and a lot of unsolved cases that really leave us like, what the fuck happened? Really, like, what the fuck happened? This one is definitely one of those where it's just like, and then how have they never been identified? Like, I don't know. So, today's case, we're talking about the Lady of the Dunes. So, this case has really rocked Massachusetts, and thrown it for a loop. I remember I first heard about this case when I think I was 14, and it mainly was because I was doing, okay, I'm a weird person. I was a very strange teenager. I'm not a serial killer by any means. I just like talking about true crime. But at that time, I was looking up different stories and different murders because I was just reading a lot of books about true crime. And then I came across this case and I'm like, well then. And I saw the town and I'm like, I know Provincetown. Where is that? Oh wait, that's P-Town in Massachusetts. Like the LGBTQ plus capital of the East Coast, literally. It's a beautiful place. It really has. I've been there once, and let me tell you, the colors of teal and turquoise have never looked much better next to the ocean, in my opinion. It looks gorgeous. But yeah, that's how I first found out about this case, and I'm just like, why has she never been identified? This would be perfect for her to be identified. And especially the manner and how just alright. Oh, by the way, I never introduced myself. I got a little carried away. I'm Liz. This is Creating Crime Time, where I talk about a true crime story and I create a work of art at the same time. And this is also 25 Days of True Crime. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So, Lady of the Dunes. Lady of the Dunes. I really like the name. The reason why that's her name is because she was found on dunes off the beach. If you didn't know that, that's why that's her name. So, the Lady of the Dunes, she was found on the 26th of July in 1974, and this is when a 12-year-old girl was walking her dog and walking with her family, and her dog wandered off and started barking, and she obviously went up to go see why her dog was barking, and she stumbled upon what she thought was a dead deer, but as she started looking at it, she realized that it was a human corpse, and the remains were literally just a few yards away from the road. She was so close to the road where her body was, but up on the dune. It's like, you don't think of these things, like where these people are placed, and how, like, their proximity from a road, and how close they were to people, and how many people could have, like, gone by. It's so strange and with this case too, they don't even think, like, there's a possibility that this 12-year-old girl wasn't the first person that saw her. There could have been other people that saw her but were too frightened to even say anything, because, I mean, how would you react if you go up and you see a dead body? Like, especially one that's mutilated, like, you're probably gonna freak out. So, what else is known about when they found her is the extensive insect activity on her body. So this too kind of hinders knowing exactly when she died. That, and she's on a dune. This is in the summer, so heat plays a lot when it comes to the decomposition of a body. Plus, with insect activity, insects obviously eat tissue, and so do other things while out in the open. So this kind of like troubles the case when it comes to actually figuring out exact time of death. Yeah. So after police got there, they obviously noticed the insect activity. They also see that there's 2 sets of footprints that led to the body, and there was tire tracks that were like 50 yards from the area. So it's clear that somebody brought her there, and that possibly it wasn't just one person because of the 2 sets of footprints. It's quite possible that there was more than one person. And police believe, now this is an approximation, that she died 2 weeks before her body was found. And especially with like the decomp and everything, it's an approximation of when they think she died. So she was found with her face down on half of a beach blanket, and there's no sign of a struggle whatsoever with her body. Police think she knew her killer, and or that she had been asleep when she died. So the thought that she knew her killer is, I mean, it's possible. She could have been laying next to them and then she fell asleep and that's when they attacked her. Or, I mean, it's also possible that she just fell asleep and somebody attacked her. Very possible. So, a blue bandana and a pair of Wrangler jeans were under her head to like act as a pillow, which, if you've never seen people on a beach, people do use different things to like use as a pillow when they're on a beach. So that's not anything out of the ordinary. She had long auburn hair that was pulled into a ponytail. Her ponytail elastic was gold fleckled and she had pink painted toenails. So she clearly maintained herself. I mean, her hair was tied back. She had some nice Wrangler jeans. She wore a blue bandana. She was, and all of these articles of clothing that they found were of like good quality. So it's somebody that bought good quality garments or had good quality garments. They believe that she is between 5'6" and 5'8", and that she weighed 145 pounds and she had an athletic build. Also, this is one thing that pisses me off about this case. So she had an extensive amount of dental work done to her mouth. She had between $5,000 to $10,000 worth of dental work. Dentists keep records of what dental work happens, and the style of dental work she had is called a New York style dental work. And this is she had caps, specific types of caps on her teeth, and all dentists have to keep a record of what they do in people's mouths. I mean, for obvious reasons, especially if they do like an ID for dental work, they have to keep records of this. So police also noted that both of her hands and one of her forearms were missing, and that when they aged her, they believe she could be as young as 20 but as old as 49. At first glance, there was no sign of sexual assault, but police believed that this could have happened post-mortem. So once rigor mortis sets in, it's less likely to show that there is signs of sexual assault, because the body, like, everything's already retracted, so there's nothing that's like loose and fluid. If that creeped you out, I'm sorry. Some investigators feel that the killer wanted to hide their identity and the victim's identity by disposing of the hands in her forearm. And there is a theory that she either had jewelry that was specific to her identity or a tattoo that could have implicated who her killer was or who she was or who they were together. So she would be buried in October of 1974 after the case went cold. So a good thing that happened is that in 2014, funds were raised to give her a new casket because her casket was deteriorating. They buried her in a metal one. If you don't know what soil does to metal after a while, it corrodes it and rusts it, so they gave her a brand new casket. That's just a side note fact. I found that out and I thought that was very nice of them to do. So after her discovery, police would scour the surrounding area and scour through missing persons reports to see if she matched anything in the area. And at the scene of the crime, there was no other evidence other than, obviously, her, the footprints, the blanket, and the tire tracks that were found. There was nothing else. Yeah, so they literally had nothing. So they did their first facial reconstruction on her in 1979, and this was made with clay. If I can, I will insert an image up here for you. Her remains would be exhumed in 1980 to be examined, but no new clues were found. And then in 2000, she would be exhumed again for DNA analysis. In May of 2010, her skull was placed through a CT scan. That way it generated a reconstruction for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That way they have more of an accurate depiction of her face and not just a clay rendering. Because each person, you gotta understand when they do like a sketch or a sketch artist, each person has a different stylized approach when they do these things. Not everybody's going to draw somebody's face the same way. So it's the same thing with clay. You're sculpting with your hands, you're going to sculpt it differently. So this CT scan will give you more of an accurate depiction of her face. Now, there's a lot of theories when it comes to this case. And I'm going to tell you these before I talk about like the manner and the way that she died. So some people believe that she could have been an extra in the movie Jaws, and this theory came about in 2015, and this is because, so in the movie, there's an extra that is seen, especially when this was filmed in Martha's Vineyard. So Martha's Vineyard is not very far from P-Town. So, and Jaws itself was shot in May to October of 1974. So she could have been an extra in this movie. Now, Joe Hill, which is Stephen King's son, believes he spotted a woman that matched her description during the fireworks scene. And that's where all of that speculation came about. There is two other theories of links to serial killers. One, which these are, I mean, one is just like sick and twisted and the other one is an actual serial killer. Well, they're both serial killers, but one, he just did it for shits and giggles, and the other one, I mean, he was already dead, so this one just doesn't work. So in 1981, investigators believed and learned of a woman that looked like the Lady of the Dunes and that was seen with Whitey Bulger. So this is an alternative theory before the serial killers. I mean, Whitey Bulger was a serial killer, but still. So they believe they saw a woman that matched her description with Whitey Bulger around the time she died. And he was linked to the case because he liked to remove teeth. So a little fact that I haven't let out yet is that the Lady of the Dunes, she had some of her teeth removed. Meh. But because of this, there was never a full link between Whitey Bulger and her proven, especially, I mean, he's dead, so yeah, we're never gonna get that. Another one is with Tony Costa. So Tony's nickname was Tony Chop Chop Costa, and he was a serial killer around the same time. There was a possible link, but this was eliminated because he died in May of 1974 and she wasn't found until July. So he was completely out. The next one would be Hayden Clark, or Hayden Clark. It's two D's, so I think Hayden. Hayden Clark confessed to her murder and insinuated that what police needed was buried in his grandfather's garden. So what he is referring to is her hands and her forearm. So in 2004, Clark had sent a letter to a friend stating that he killed a woman in Cape Cod. He also sent two drawings, and one was a woman naked, handless, on her stomach, and another is a map pointing to where she was found. Now, this map was pointing to where the Lady of the Dunes was found. In April of 2000, Clark led police to where he claimed he buried two victims 20 years before, and he also stated he murdered more people between the 1970s to the 90s. So he has not fully been ruled out as a suspect. He's still on their suspect list, but it's not definitive whether or not he did it. There's also a little thing when it comes to this case where there is a bar associated with this case, and in the basement of this bar, Hayden Clark said that her hands were buried in the basement in the wall. Well, coincidentally, the basement was just recently cemented when they looked. So any evidence of her hands or forearm being there would be gone, and they wouldn't be able to, get to it. Sucks, doesn't it? Just gotta love them. So in 2019, the DA for the Cape and the surrounding islands opened a new investigation for the Lady of the Dunes and plans to use genetic genealogy to ID her. So far, they are still running the genetic genealogy for her to see if they can actually build a family tree and get a match for her. I hope that this is what will work to find her identity. I mean, this worked for the Bear Brook State Park case with Terry Rasmussen. If you don't know who that is, I'm thinking about doing a video on that because that video, the whole case just blew my mind. That's another New Hampshire partly solved true crime case, but so I really hope that this is what the police need to just break this case wide open, because it's been unsolved for so many years. So since 1974, it's been unsolved, and it's just one of those just replays on the mind and replays on the mind. Keeps going and going and going. Yeah, so for 45 years, this has been unsolved. So this woman, and the manner of the way that she died is also has ties to military because of the tool that was used. So she was nearly decapitated, possibly by strangulation, by an entrenching tool. Now, if you don't know what an entrenching tool is, basically it's a multi-tool that military uses so they can dig a trench. And I know what this is because me and my husband bought our, like, his brother one for Christmas, and basically it's like a shovel with a pick, and they believe this is what was used to partially decapitate but strangle her with, and also to cause damage to a blow to the head, which literally crushed one side of her skull, and this injury is what killed her. So it was basically severe blunt force trauma. And this was discovered when they did the autopsy, and they also, when they did the autopsy, they found the small signs of sexual assault that was likely committed post-mortem. So this case is a doozy every time I read it, because I'm just like, man, they literally could solve this. This would be like the best thing for not just New England crime, Massachusetts crime, but crime throughout the US. If they could solve this case, man, police would be seen in a better way. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video for the 25 Days of True Crime. Bye, guys.